All right, hello everybody, and welcome to Geopolitical Trends, where truth matters. Excited to be with you, and hope you had a good weekend, relaxing one. I know yesterday I didn't do a live stream because I was working on this topic today, in addition to others, and I kind of made the decision to address this particular issue, and this particular topic rather, and we will get into all this as we move forward. First, let me say hi to our wonderful community here. So let's see who's here. Taiwan Still, good to see you. As always, Willie Holman, as always. Hanging G, good to see you. Thank you for your comments, by the way. Truth Seeker, as always, good to see you. Mohammed Mazhardin, good to see you. Who else? Alice Talokin, here you are. Good to see you. All right, guys, let's get into Ramples01. Good to see you, and hello to you as well. Marco W, good to see you. And Zakaria Benzil, good to see you, sir. All right, let's get into our topic. We're gonna be talking, first of all, just to give you a heads up for those who do not know, I'll be talking about the waiver regarding the sanctions on the Chabahar port, which is funded by India. India has a big stake into that, which means now that Trump said that waiver that existed on that port, no more, which means India is going to end up holding the end of the stick. And we're going to get into all this. And this is what I'm going to be addressing. Of course, this is not about just sanctions. It's about the geopolitical implications moving forward with that, regarding that issue. So before I'll go further, I wanted to share with you some headlines from around the world, because it's very important for you at least to understand what's going on. So I got some pictures here I'm going to be sharing with you, and we'll just elaborate on all this as we move forward. Well, the first one I want to start with, I believe, is, let me get my my stuff closer here, is the King of Jordan. Yeah, the King of Jordan is coming to DC. As a matter of fact, he is already here, but he's going to be meeting, actually today, he's meeting today with Donald Trump. So the thing is that the king is saying, well, if Israel or the U.S. does whatever in Gaza, that will be considered an act of war. Well, the guy can move an inch. First of all, why is he saying what he's saying when he knows he can't do squat about it? You know, he's just another servant of the West, no more, no less, especially the United States. This is an old picture from 2018. You know, the king is just, you know, it's just bravado, no more, no less. Most Arab countries won't be able to do squat about it, about Gaza, about Palestinians. They just talk. Saudis, the Emiratis, Jordan, Egypt, all of them, no exception. I mean, we all know where that is. So don't fall for that when you hear, oh, the king is coming to, what is he going to do? Squat. Second thing has to do also, another headline, it has to do with Modi. Well, Modi is coming to the US between 12th and 14th. He's currently in Paris, I guess, attending the AI summit in Paris. So he's coming over to the United States. Now, what is he coming to the US for? Which is part of what I'm going to be talking about this. Is he coming to, and I'm going to say it straightforward, is he coming to beg the American president to extend the waiver? I mean, I'll let you guys decide for this, but it is already what the headlines are saying in certain parts of the world, especially coming out of India. One of them, it says, Modi's trip to Washington marks a new height in the US-India ties. What's behind the dramatic increase in the strategic cooperation? One word is China. So you can just see how the wording, the articles about India. Another one, it says, described his visit, and I put in quote, described as a defining partnership of the 21st century. India and the US are set to give a big boost to bilateral relations. What relations are there? I mean, it's not a laughing matter. We all know that India will have to bow and to the line according to what the US says. Simple as that. So this is when you hear articles coming out of the world now is monitoring this strategic move by the Indians visiting. It's all hypes. no more, no less. All this stuff is nothing but a hypes. This is an old picture from the previous administration taking orders regarding Quad. You all remember that. The third the third headline I want to talk to you about this individual. You all know who this is. Can you guys type in the chat box who this person is? And again, I don't assume that everybody knows. I like to have you part in the conversation here, guys. If you will be kind and just type in the chat box who this person is. Alistalokin, you are there. I'm looking for the name. Oh, Flat Earth Hangout. You got it. Hasina, that is correct. That is her picture there. So what's going on with her? Well, Bangladesh now is asking India, to send back the ex-Prime Minister Hasina, who was involved for judicial process because of the corruption that she got involved in. And speaking of corruption, Twitter or X just informed me today that they had to take down one of my comments because I said a word they didn't like. It's considered not appropriate. And all I said was, this is what I see the good way of dealing with corrupted people. You all know what I mean, right, guys? They didn't like that. So it's just whatever. But anyway, this is what now the government in Bangladesh sent a formal request to New Delhi asking for the Indian government sort of to extradite Sheikh Hasina, who fled to India. Makes you just wonder, why India? Well, because he was protected by the Indian government. So now they are saying they want, meaning the Bangladeshi government wants India to send her back to Bangladesh to stand trial for corruption after 15-year rule. So, and here is what India's response, and I put it in quote: "We confirm that we have received a note verbal from the Bangladeshi High Commission today in connection with an extradition request. At this time, we have no comment to offer," meaning the Indian government. "We have no comment to offer on this matter," the official spokesperson of Indian Ministry of External Affairs said. Wow, that just tells you the story right there. And again, we're not judging here. That's their prerogative. That's their issue. They can resolve it whatever way. To me, it was just the idea that I need you to understand certain aspects as to what is going on regarding this. So now, regarding our topic, let's take a look at the key questions for this particular. Here are the questions right here. Is India screwed? And I'll say it straightforward. Because they invested a lot of money, even though it wasn't much. It was about $67 million, something like that. That's all. But still, to India, it's a lot of money because, rupees it's useless on the global stage, and that kind of money would have been better used and invested domestically. But anyway, is India screwed? Second question is, does Trump, and here is the key, does Trump has now no use for Modi anymore after the second term, because Trump is not going to run for elections again anymore. So, and third question, what will India do now? So, and this is again why I wanted to do this topic, because I need you to understand the ramification and the long-term impact of something like this. So when we think about Trump ending the sanction waivers on Chabahar port, there are a lot of people that do not know where even Chabahar is. I am going to be sharing some images, and I'll talk with you about some even the presentations I used to or I did regarding this topic. I'll share a few things with you as I move forward. So now this waiver on Chabahar port was because of India. The waiver, the sanctions, of course, imposed on Iran, but this is more for India than it is for Iran. So Trump's recent memo, which asking the Secretary of State to either modify or rescind the sanction waiver that's been related to the Iran's Chabahar port. So why is this important? It's because India sort of has the management rights for 10 years regarding this port. But if the sanctions are applied, India is going to be screwed anyway. So, and this, of course, comes on the heels of Modi, Prime Minister Modi, visit to the United States, which I think he's on his way here because he's supposed to be here tomorrow between 12 and 14. So this is what I'm going to be detailing on this. Before I move forward, please make sure to subscribe, because the analysis you hear on this channel is unique to this particular channel here. So if you are learning and enjoying this kind of free episodes, I will greatly appreciate if you can hit the subscribe button in order to share this with other peoples from around the world, so they, like you, can have a chance to hear the truth and know exactly what is going on. So I'm going to put the link for in the chat box for those who might be here for the first time, and I will greatly appreciate your support for that. Here's the link here. So anyway, so let's get into our analysis here, and I'm going to be detailing a few things to you about it. So now, India, as I told you, has signed already a 10-year agreement to develop and operate Iran's strategic Chabahar port. Now, the logical question that you guys are going to ask is, why the heck is India going to foreign land to invest when he could invest in his own country that is degrading? That is, I've heard people saying that they got like an open sewage in the streets. And again, let's guys, please refrain from just talking negative about India and all that. That's not what we do in this channel. So I will greatly appreciate you if you can keep the conversation civil. But we cannot refrain from stating the facts. So if somebody reporting to Ask Giant last time, he goes back sometimes to India, is there an open sewage in the street? And the answer was yes. Is there rundown bridges that they are broken? The answer was yes. Is the massive amount of unemployment going up? The answer was yes. Is poverty? Yes. Ethnic tensions between the Muslims and the Hindus and other ethnic groups? And the answer was yes. So all this are facts. That is what my point is. So to me was, if India is going to go and invest in managing a port 10 years, that comes with the cost and all that, instead of using that money internally. But again, you think about who's running the Indian government. And I'm not saying just pointing to them. I'll point to my own government for the corruption that exists here. So, but again, we're just talking openly here. But here is the thing, what you need to understand, India's so-called strategic thinking, even though there's nothing strategic about it. But anyway, that's what they're saying. The aim and the objective of this port, the Chabahar, is to boost trade with landlocked Afghanistan and Central Asian countries. Well, that makes sort of doesn't make sense when you consider, is this how you're going to increase your economic output? Is this how you're going to uplift your people from poverty? Is by trading with Afghanistan? No offense to Afghanistan, but what does Afghanistan has to offer besides its geography, what it is? Let's just be honest about all this. There is no emotions. As I always say, guys, in international relations, and when it comes down to geopolitics, you can be thinking emotionally. Facts are facts, because what India is doing has nothing to do with the welfare of Indian people. It has to do with getting back at Pakistan because of another port that exists in Pakistan. Does anybody know which port I am referring to here? Let me see if you guys in the chat box, you can type that in. There is a major port in Pakistan. And the whole reason to why India gets involved in Chabahar with Iran. I'm going to show this in a screen. You got it, Gwadar port. You're absolutely correct. And I have a pictures of this, and I'm going to detail to you a few things about it that you need to know, because there's a much bigger picture to all this. And this is, again, India's objective was getting back at Pakistan. It has nothing to do with the welfare of the Indian people that deserve something from the government. It's like ours. I criticize my own government. I mean, look what Twitter just did to me this morning, because I posted yesterday, and all I said was, well, yeah, this is how corrupted people should be dealt with. I'm not going to put somebody who's been involved in a corruption in prison for the next 20 years because we have to foot in the bill for that. No, you do what's need to be done, and you all know what I mean by that, guys. That's, to me, it's not barbaric. It's just punishment for corruption. Simple as that. But anyway, this is what we are. What I'm trying to highlight is the importance of why all of a sudden India now is confused as to what's going to be doing. I had a chance to read an article by Jipajan Roy Chaudhary. So, and I'm going to put the link for you. So, and the article is on point regarding the surface, but it didn't go into the depth of really what's going on regarding the Chabahar. Maybe the author did not know the ins and outs of what was going on behind the scenes. I was familiar with this issue back in 2008 and 2007 when the conversation started to roll. I was still in Washington at that time, so I am very, very familiar. I've traveled to that part of the world and the border of India and Pakistan and so forth, so I'm very, very familiar with this particular topic, and I did major presentations on it. So the thing now that the President Trump, is going to either modify or rescind the sanctions waivers related to the Iran Chabahar port, it's going to now impact the trajectory for India. Why? Because this particular waiver that now is going to be, in other words, the sanctions is going to go back, is going to affect Afghanistan, okay? And it's going to affect, because that's how the author puts it. And this is, to me, where the manipulation comes in, And again, I have nothing against this. I don't even know who this individual is. But because I give credit where credit is due. That's why I'm reacting to his article here, and I will put the link for you. Here is what he said, and I quote, "The U.S. president's move to modify or rescind sanctions waivers related to Iran's Chabahar port managed by India could negatively affect Afghanistan and U.S. regional partners, including their counterterrorism efforts." End of quote. You see what this author is getting into by invoking the term counterterrorism to push the narrative so that we have to justify not keeping the sanctions so India can fight terrorism or counterterrorism. And that's, to me, is a manipulation. Straightforward, because if the author was honest enough, he will go straight forward into the argument that we wanted to have share, meaning India in this case, we wanted to have share of the pie regarding what's going on in Central Asia regarding the transportation and transformation and economic changes, development, and so forth. And who's leading those developments? None other than China. So basically, this Chabahar project altogether is aiming at getting back at Pakistan, but also at China, because we convinced the Indians to go ahead and do our bidding, because we never wanted to see China expand its BRI in Central Asia. This is what's at the heart of it. So it will make more sense if the author would have addressed this one openly and let us, the readers, decide for ourselves. In any event, as I said, the article is on track regarding the basics, but it did not go into the depth of what really has to do with what this is all about. So now, in the article, I read one sentence, and I was just shaking my head. It says, and I quote, "India is studying the memo, and the issue might figure out at the meeting between President Trump and Prime Minister Modi." So yeah, which is starting tomorrow. They're going to study the memo. Well, let's be honest and straightforward. What on earth can India do? What is impossible? What is is India even in possession to do anything whatsoever? So, and once again, I feel comfortable using the term begging because that's what the prime minister is coming to the US for, to beg on two things. One of them is the Chabahar, the waiver that is this, and second one has to do with the H-1B visa for Indian individuals coming to the US, because Donald Trump packed them up on a plane with handcuffs, which was very humiliating way. And again, I am not against immigration whatsoever, but I am for legal immigration. You do it the right way. You can't just bargain into a country willy-nilly, like what I witnessed in China. You can't just walk in. They don't care who you are. You have the paper, you have the visa to get into the country. The immigration is controlled from all parts of the country. I saw it when I crossed into Macau. I saw it when I crossed into Hong Kong. I saw it when I crossed into Taiwan. And I saw it when I was even coming back from Hong Kong into Guangzhou using the speed train. And I had to check into the immigration. It took me 5 minutes, scanned my passport. They have my info there. No issues there. Which to me an idea of they know who's coming in and who's going out. Simple as that. So the idea of Mr. Modi coming in here because he's coming to bag the President Trump regarding this Chabahar waiver. And I don't think so. Trump is going to waiver from that either, because if he does, that shows you that Trump is just flip-flops. Well, he does. Usually there's nothing new about it. But again, like I asked in the question, does Mr. Trump now has no use for India anymore? This is why to him, this is a lost cause anyway. It doesn't matter whether Modi comes here or not, whether he begs or not, Trump's going to move on. And that's the way I see it. And this is once again, begs the question of the strategic thinking of if there are any inside the Indian government, and it's not my place to say. I am just sharing the facts here. It's their country. They can do whatever they want. But if there's any strategic thinking, you will assume that they will be thinking about the investments into this Chabahar port, which, by the way, we don't even know if it is fully operational. Yeah, we don't know that. Of course, India says it is operational. Are you going to trust what the Indian government is saying? So I'll let you be the judge of that. And here is the one particular map, and I give credit to Geopolitical Monitor. They have a great article regarding this, and I'm going to be addressing a few things about it. What you need to know, first of all, is that the modern Chabahar, let me get the picture here for you to see. Here we go. This one here, the modern Chabahar dates back to the around 1970. That's how old this place is. Why is this? Because you have to go back to who was in charge of Iran back in the 70s. Can you guys type in the chat box? This one known back then. I'll help you out. It was a puppet. Indeed, Marco W. That was the Shah, Reza Pahlavi. Indeed, that's what it was. So back at the time, it was declared a municipality. That's what it was declared. Then the large ports projects started at that time by the order of Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, which was the Shah of Iran that we posed there after the coup that we conducted along with the MI6 in 1953 to topple Mohammad Mossadegh because he wanted to nationalize the oil industry. So what happened at that time, the Shah planned to construct a $600 million naval base at Chabahar. Who do you think was going to use the naval base? It was the United States. It wasn't for Iran. Yeah, That's what, and because right there it says that most likely this 600 million naval base at Chabahar mostly employing American companies as contractors back then. So this is what I need you to understand, where this issue is and why it matters. It matters not just from an economic perspective, it matters from a geopolitical aspects as well. And this, of course, will have to lead us into talking about how this came about to begin with. It was because China went ahead and decided to invest in Gwadar port. Of course, you all know what's going on right now on the economic corridor, that they are attempting to undermine that one. We are influencing the Pakistani government in Islamabad to do our bidding behind the scenes, because we never wanted to see the Pakistanis move forward economically. The same arguments I will make about India, the same arguments I'll make about Africa, the same arguments I'll make about Latin America. That is what's at the heart of this. So when you look at about Gwadar and how China got involved in its developments, I mean, the facts speaks for themselves. This is what you need to understand, where the challenge is. So, well, first, let me tell you the difference, because you need to understand. This is Chabahar, okay? Here is the map. I want you to see that. This is Chabahar right there. This is Gwadar port. Look where Chabahar is. Look where Gwadar is. So geography plays a major role. But what you need to understand is that Gwadar port is a deep sea port, unlike Chabahar. That is a major difference. Yeah, this port is a deep sea port. Chabahar is not. Okay, that is the first thing. So it has more capacity for dealing with a dry cargo and serves as an ideal location for transshipment facilities, as it is located close to the sea lines of communication. Second, Gwadar is an all-weather port, which means what? It's a year-round. A year-round. This leads me, guys, to ask you one question here that it's tied to all this, but something different. What is the only port in the world that is considered the best global seaport? If you can tell me which country that port is. I just want to share this. I want to find out if you guys know. As a matter of fact, this port has always came at the top. Mumbai port. No. You're joking, right? Here is the answer. Here is the answer. Singapore. Flat Earth, you got it. Singapore. Singapore has been crowned now the best global seaport for the third consecutive year. Yeah. And best seaport in Asia for the 35th times at 2023. So it says a lot, because this one has to do with Asia freight, logistics, and supply chain award. That's what's important about it. So, all right, let me share with you some background regarding Gwadar port, and this, as I said, this map, we give credit to Geopolitical Monitor. I have the article and I read it. As a matter of fact, I did disclose, I think I referenced them in my book when I talked about, I think, Iran or one of the books, I remember, because I have references. So I'm going to be providing you the link for this one to understand. So when you think about Chabahar port, so we're talking about Chabahar right now. So this port right here, so we won't get confused. When we talk about Chabahar, Chabahar is an Iranian port which is located in the Gulf, on the Gulf of Oman. It was originally built in 1983 in order to diversify trade away from the Persian Gulf during the Iraq War. Chabahar port was recently expanded following some $500 million in investments and loans from the Indian government. The site consists of two separate ports. One is called Shahid Kalantari, and the other one is called Shahid Bihachi, which combined have then deep water berth. In other words, they wanted to have the same characteristics as Gwadar, but not necessarily. So now you need to understand the big picture of it, and the big picture is that Chabahar is more than just a port. Because here is the thing: when India gets involved in this, because this one is come out of India's ambitious trade objectives that it's hoping to achieve. You'll remember last year G20. What was the conversation regarding after the conclusion of G20 summit? It was that India now is going to be the hub to Europe and West Asia regarding freight and so forth. Where is the infrastructure for that? And who's going to pay for it? But it was on the paper, it just said, oh, India is going to be the one managing this and that. India cannot afford that. Straightforward. So the first real attempt of the Chabahar was to get at the BRI, the Belt and Road Initiative, except that India wanted to do something like BRI with Indian characteristics. So now, the cost of this was about $1.6 billion. The Chabahar Zahidan Railway linked to Afghanistan that connects it to the port. So where all this money is going to come from? And this is once again, the objective for the Indian government was so-called to solidify new regional trade routes to Central Asia, routes that will, in some cases, compete directly with China's BRI, particularly the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, known as CPEC. So, and this is why, to me, it was like this Chabahar project was India's just a fantasy dream and ambitions. Yes, it is completed to a degree, but is it fully operational? We don't know. We don't know. I couldn't find that is where it's really declared and stated that is fully operational. And so I can conclusively say that the port is fully operational. So, but this is also has to do with India trying to be smart regarding more ambitious north-south transportation corridor, but they don't have the infrastructure for it. I mean, tell me, guys, is India going to compete with China regarding infrastructure? I don't mean to insult your intelligence here, but what's factual is factual. Facts are facts. So, and this is where you have to think in terms what this why all of a sudden China is India has to really have a Prime Minister Modi come over to beg Donald Trump, please keep the extension of the waivers because we're going to be losing big time. So, on the other hand, I can see where Trump will play Modi by saying, sure, I might do this for you extended by another, let's say, 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, but in return, I want something regarding China. Because remember, Chabahar port had nothing to do with the welfare of the Indian economy. It had to do with two things, like I mentioned earlier, Gwadar port and China. Straightforward. This is where that difference is. And a lot of people do not understand this reality here. So when we think about, I'm not even going to talk about Afghanistan on this, or Iran for that matter, because There are economic benefits mainly for Iran. So, but Iran has alternatives, and those alternatives is with China and Russia. No, India does not. India, even though it has relations with Russia and China, but it's also a dead weight when it comes down to BRICS. Afghanistan is only now getting, as a matter of fact, it was a Russian delegation that traveled to Kabul, met with the government there in Afghanistan. So funny how I am finding myself going back in history to the Vietnam War, which we didn't war. We didn't win the war in Vietnam, and Vietnam ended up being in the government. The same thing in Afghanistan. We end up not winning the war in Afghanistan, only to find out that we are dealing with the same government that we were trying to topple. So that's just funny how history is. So to Afghanistan, it's just gonna be play whomever pays the best or whatever. That's the culture in Afghanistan. That's just how it is. So but of course, to dig deeper into this, we need a whole session just on that specifically. So, and I'm not gonna be addressing that one at this time. So there are other articles, and I came across, and I'm gonna post a link for you. Those are academic journals that I read, and as I said, when I was writing my book about Iran and Russia, I had to address this because I had to talk about China, the BRI, Iran, and all the economic and strategic and geopolitical development and dynamics that were taking place. So this is where the idea of the trilateral economic agreements between Afghanistan, Iran, and India. That's where this whole notion of this Chabahar port had to come into. But it's not going to be what we might be expecting. So, and like I said, when I do my speaking engagements, and I'm going to share some slides with you, even though it's not for public, you won't find them on the internet because these things are private anyway. So because you are my community here, to those who do not know, I do speaking engagements for entities privately. There's nothing recorded there because the nature of the information that I share. So on some of them, I did these speaking engagements at the World Affairs Councils. I did it at the military bases, and other venues. So, and I talked to the different aspects of it. Well, one of them was that I did it way back. Here is the link for it. So and again, consider yourself privileged that I'm sharing, because this is not in the public domain. It's a personal, and that's one of the things that I do with my speaking engagements for. There's usually entities that ask me to come over and speak. They are thinking about investments here. So whatever information I share with them, they end up saving them millions of dollars. It's because I provide them the read on the geopolitical landscape that will either grant them the ability to invest or not. I don't get involved in their decision unless I'm hired as a consultant. And that is a different conversation. But in any event, this is one of the area what I wanted to, why I addressed this few years ago. I addressed this few years ago, guys, because it was an issue that the Gwadar port is going to overtake even the port in Dubai. And if you know anything about the ports in Dubai, this is where India comes in by convincing Iran to allow it to do or invest in Chabahar port. So I'm just going to share a few things. This is what I'm saying regarding Gwadar, because I did it on Gwadar. The entity that asked me to do the presentation wanted to know about the Gwadar port more so than Chabahar. And even during my presentation, I had to provide them an inside info regarding this is where you need to focus on Gwadar more so than Chabahar. Why? Because at that time, when I was dealing with this or presenting this, the BRI was in its implementation phase. So, and this is where I talked about the collaboration at that time of 68 countries regarding the One Belt, One Road initiative at that time through Gwadar. So if you look at the map here, so it is. So And this is why I need you guys to understand why we behind the scenes trying to undermine these developments of Gwadar. Because from the northwest of China province, Xinjiang, to Gwadar in the northwest of Pakistan through the Gulf of Amman, this is what China is able to build as far as infrastructure. And this is where Prime Minister Modi made a trip to United Arab Emirates, and I covered that trip. Because here is the thing that I need you to understand, what the importance about Gwadar. Dubai is nervous about sabotaging the deal. That's what it was. Because here's the thing. When I did this presentation, I told the entity that asked me to do this, I said, mark my word on 4 things. One is that Iran's going to be wondering, India will profit, Saudi Arabia will lose, and the US is non-existent. So anyway, this is what I used to do for my, you can check out the link here to my speaking engagement there if you are interested and to learn more, let alone ask me to come over and give us a presentation for your entity if you happen to get involved into this. But anyway, and this is why I wanted to provide you those insights to understand where this is going. So there is no other way of looking at this except that Modi is coming to the United States to beg Mr. Trump not to enforce the sanction waiver. So I even wrote, when I wrote in my book, actually it was on the Iran book, just to be to confirm this, because I have the an excerpt from the book I'm going to share with you. So yeah, it was on my Iran book. That's where I did this excerpt. I wrote back then, how convenient it will be for Beijing to flex its maritime muscles, given that its base in Djibouti will be fully operational by then. I am interested to see which country China might consider establishing its next naval base. Arrangements are already in the works, given how Iran operates on a multiple fronts when it comes to establishing ties with other countries after the lifting of sanctions. That move greatly benefit China. For instance, Iran entered into an agreement with the Indian government, providing it the right to develop and operate the Iranian port of Chabahar near the Pakistani port of Gwadar along Iran's Arabian Sea coast. This would undoubtedly benefit China's long-term strategic objective. Yeah, you can see the logic on this, in my opinion, with China's strategic thinking versus that of India. They are on the opposite end. Could this explain China's steady expansion in the South China Sea and other areas? And the answer is yes. China sees it as a gesture of goodwill to lend a supporting hand to a local government just in case, meaning local government Iran, that is, just in case one day it might call on those same governments to allow Beijing to establish a naval base. Of note, China's strategy came to fruition during the Association of Southeast Asian Nations known as ASEAN latest meeting in Vientiane, Laos, when the Obama administration tried to urge ASEAN to make a reference to the July ruling by the UN-backed Permanent Court of Arbitration, in which U.S. ally Manila won an empathetic legal victory over China in the dispute. It was a big blow to the Americans as Cambodia objected to this reference. That's what I'm trying to pinpoint to you guys to understand where this dynamics is headed. So very, very interesting dynamics. We're going to be seeing some head of states coming here to the U.S. Like I said, the King of Jordan is here already. We have now the foreign minister of Egypt is in Washington, D.C. And soon you probably will see some Europeans come in, like the liar Ursula von der Leyen will be here. And maybe, who's to say who else is going to be right here? As a matter of fact, I have a clip I need to play for you guys, which is very, very, very interesting. Check this out. How France ignored completely, remove from studio, and how France ignored India completely. It was very, very, I don't know if it was by design or just take a look at this. I'm going to play it for you guys. This is Vice President Vance going to Paris to attend the AI summit in Paris. Look how Emmanuel Macron ignored Modi, who was sitting next on the left side of Vance. Yeah, so it tells you the sort of where things are headed, and again, optics matters. So the idea that, the way I see it, just to wrap this up, guys, and I'll see if there's any question from you, just to wrap this up, the idea of, I don't see any other alternative for Modi being here in Washington. What else could he be coming for? What else does he have to offer Trump, or the United States for that matter? There are those who say, well, because of the sanctions that Trump now is imposing on others, India is going to be concerned or whatever. No, because what do we import from India? So, I mean, I look at it with the arguments that I've always made, this argument regarding India buying oil from Russia and selling it to the Europeans for 2 or 3 times the price, but at the same time paying the Russians with the rupees. Well, I don't blame the Indians, but I blame the Russians also. The Russians should have asked India to pay in gold or some other commodity, whatever that might be. Because rupees, it's not going to be used anyway on the global market. Who's going to use rupees? Let's just be honest about it. And again, no emotions here. Why not putting down India? That is not the objective here. Indian people deserve to live in prosperity, economic, whatever, like every other race. But apparently the Indian government seems to be oblivious to this by design. This is by design, because who controls? And again, I look at my own country. We have the mess that is going on with the massive corruption. Even for Twitter X to remove my comments because I said what the proper punishment for corruption ought to be. Well, mister, you can't get involved in this kind of speech. It's like, no. Whoever recommended this probably has something to worry about. So if you are not involved in corruption, what would you worry? So, but again, it's just to highlight to you the idea of our system is as corrupted as it can get. And as a matter of fact, I am even thinking of doing a particular video about it right here. Especially for my American viewers, they need to understand the reality that it exists. And we can't be just pointing fingers at other countries and forgetting what we have. We have a mess here. Let's be honest about it, straightforward. And I don't like to spend my time just venting here. No. You provide the argument, and we provide solutions to it. Simple as that. So, anyway, guys, I am going to be working on some other topics for you. I'm open to, if you ever wants me to do the topic about the visit of the King of Jordan, but the king is just another servant. He's no no matter what you hear, or is if Israel did this or did that, is a declaration of war. Come on, man. Come on, man. You can't even fight a fly. I'm very familiar with Jordan. I was involved in the training of their own special ops, so I kind of, that's the extent of what I can share with you. So, but the idea of saying they all are nervous now coming because we will cut off the aid to Jordan. Without the aid of the US won't survive. Same thing with Egypt. The massive amount that exists in the military establishment in Egypt as far as corruption. Maybe I need to do a video about it. Egyptian people deserve better, but the same thing. Even the Palestinians. Do you think the PLA, the Palestinian Liberation, the PLO, the Palestinian Liberation Organization, that Mahmoud Abbas is as corrupted as he gets? Why do you think now this Hamas and the PLO are fighting? It's because the people in Gaza do not want the PLO, because they are corrupted, because we are controlling Mahmoud Abbas. The Israelis and the Americans are controlling Mahmoud Abbas. We tell him what to do. So he's not going to care for the people in Gaza, no matter what you hear. Arabs, and I hate to say it, but Arabs like to talk. It's in action that you find out. And if you use your history as a guide, always remember what the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius said: watch what a man does, not what he says. Straightforward. This is where I see the developments moving forward. But I am looking at other topics. Actually, what time is it? I have an interview with a foreign entity from overseas at about 45 minutes. So they reached out to me yesterday. So in any event, guys, just let me know in the comment. Please hit the like button before you sign out. And I greatly appreciate you being here and for keeping the conversation civil. Thank you so much for that. And I look forward to seeing you next time. As always, remember, geopolitics impact your daily life in more ways than one. Till next time. Bye-bye.